Hi there, I'm Professor Juris, and I wanted to make you a quick video and show you how the view camera's lens works. So to start with, if you think of this lens, you could think of it as a self-contained camera. It basically has everything that you need to take a picture. So the first thing that you want to do when you're taking a picture with the view camera is you're going to have to open the lens. So there's a little button right here on the side, and if you push that button up, it'll open the lens. So another thing you want to do is open the f-stop. So you want the lens wide open when you focus the camera. So with the lens wide open, I could go ahead and focus the camera right now. Once I focus the camera, the next thing that I want to do is choose my f-stop that my exposure meter has told me to use. So using a light meter, I would determine the shutter speed and the f-stop that I'm going to use. So I say I stop it down to f16. Then what I need to do is I need to make sure I close my lens down. This is where a lot of beginning students make mistakes, is they'll put their film holder in the camera, open up the film holder, and they forgot to close the lens. So we need to make sure we close the lens before we start. And then what we would need to do is we have our f-stop and our shutter speed set. The shutter speeds are on the front through this front dial, and again the f-stops are the back dial back here that move with this other little lever back here. And you can see they go from 5.6 all the way to 64 on this lens, and it goes from time, bulb, 1 second all the way up to a 500th of a second. So if I was taking a picture right now and I was at 1 second, this is the button right here, and I push that back this way to cock the shutter, and then what I do is I simply hit the shutter release right here. This is the shutter release, and it'll actually fire the camera. So that was 1 second at f32, and it goes all the way to 64. Take advantage of that when you need pictures with a lot of depth of field. f64 is a great f-stop to use. Ansel Adams started a group of photographers called the f64 group because they liked shooting pictures that had a whole lot of depth of field in them, and you get that with that. Two things of interest on this lens is the time setting and the bulb setting. So the time setting you may not be familiar with. And what the time setting does is if I need to take a picture, like say I'm outside taking a picture at dusk of a building or something, and it's a really long picture, a really long exposure. If I had like a 30-second exposure, well, I cock the shutter and I put it on the time setting, and I could use a cable release that would screw right into the shutter right here. And here's a cable release I can show you here in a minute that we would simply thread into this. That threads into there. If you see that little part right there, that goes into here and screws in, and that'll help me fire the thing from a little bit away. But what I would do is fire the camera and then count to my 30 or time it on my watch, 30 seconds, and then I could hit the button again and that'll close it. So the way the time exposure works is when the camera's cocked, I hit the button once to open it, and I hit the shutter button a second time to close it. Going to the bulb setting, the way the bulb setting works is if you're familiar with a Holga camera or a Diana camera, the way the bulb setting works is you have to hold the button down for the time that you want it open. So if you wanted the 10-second exposure, you could basically hold this down and go 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, and then release the lens. So again, to go over it quickly, we have to use this button on the side to open the lens. We want to make sure we open our f-stops, which is this back lever, to the lens all the way open when we're focusing. And then we need to remember to close down to the f-stop that we're using. We would again use the shutter speed dial to select the shutter speed that goes with the corresponding f-stop to give us the correct exposure for how much light is present within the scene. Then we would close the lens down, cock the shutter, and then we use this button right here to fire it. And then with the cable release, let me see if I can screw this in here real quick. So we screw this thing down into here like that with the cable release, and the way that works is then when I fire it, so I could be standing a little bit away, and this keeps you from actually putting vibration on the camera too. So it's good to get one of these, and you can order these through like B&H Photo. You do want to make sure when you're taking a picture you don't get the cable in front of the lens like that. But being off to the side, what you can actually do is simply use this to fire the thing. And then if you do have a time exposure, say you're on the bulb setting, you can actually use this on the bulb setting. I'll put it to the bulb setting. If you're on the bulb setting, what you can do is actually hold this down and then count to the number of seconds that you need and release it. And then some cable releases actually have a lock on it. Like if you were doing a few minute exposure, this one has a manual lock where you actually turn it and lock it. And some of them actually will have like a plunger lock. So when you push this down, it'll automatically lock, and then you have to hit the plunger to open it up again. So anyway, I hope that helps, and enjoy.